My name's David Everest. I'm the manager here at Create New South Wales as part of the arts funding program. Just a little bit about me. I've been around Create for a few years now, and so I've been an arts bureaucrat for a while, but prior to that, I was also a practicing artist. I was actually in Melbourne, and I actually worked at Footscray Community Arts Centre for over 10 years as a theatre coordinator, doing a lot of work in the community down there. We've got a team of people from Create here also here to answer the questions and also to just to introduce themselves so that you know that when you do have questions or do want to contact us at Create New South Wales, who to talk to, and also just how all the team here have been or are practicing artists. So hopefully we can understand your questions and you know where you're coming from. But next slide, Ian. Just before I introduce the team, I'd just like to acknowledge that we're all living and working on Aboriginal land, and Create New South Wales acknowledges the First Nations people across the state and their continued connection to these lands and waters and culture of what we now call New South Wales, and we pay our respects to the elders past and present and the continuing vital role that they play in contributing to our culture and their culture. I'm actually coming to you from Gambungia country up on the mid-north coast, and pay respect to my elders and the local community up here. Okay, so just quickly to introduce the team. I'm not sure what order they are in your screen, but in my screen I've got Jessie first. So Jessie, if you just want to introduce yourself.
Hi, thanks David. Hi everyone, thanks for joining. It's lovely to see so many people here. My name's Jessie. I'm on the Regional Arts Funding and Development team here at Create New South Wales. I've been here for about 3 years. And yeah, I also a practicing artist. I've got a photographic and sculptural practice. So it's yeah, really nice to be able to juggle those two things. I live on Bundjalung country up north. And yeah, I'm happy to be here to help answer any questions. Thanks, David.
Thanks, Jessie. And Ian?
Hi, everyone. My name is Ian Fuentes. I'm one of the lead officers in the team. My background, I do a lot with music. So yeah, I have extensive knowledge with that kind of area, classical music as well, choral and opera. It's a bit about me, but yeah, been working with Create New South Wales just over 7 years now. So yeah, quite a long time.
Thanks, Ian. And then we've got, confusingly, 2 Nicks, but Nick S.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nick. I'm on the Arts Funding and Development team here at Create New South Wales as an Arts Funding and Development Officer since August of 2020, and also have a visual arts practice. I'm a painter, and my studio is down here on Dharawal country, and yeah.
Thanks, Nick. And Nick Pont.
Thanks, David. Yeah, I'm Nick Pont. I'm in the Arts Funding Development team at Create New South Wales. I've been here for about 18 months. I'm also a practicing artist, working in the visual arts, specifically mostly painting and drawing. And I've also worked in the sector for a regional gallery. Thanks, David.
Great. And next slide, Ian. And yeah, we do have women in the team as well. It's a bit funny with 5 men here today, but just the way the roster fell today. Creative steps, new work is what we're talking about today. We're going to do just a quick brief overview of the program, Should only take about 10 minutes, and then we will basically be open to questions. And we did a session yesterday on next steps, and it was really great. No question is, too easy or too difficult, and it's just great. I think it's really useful for everybody to hear all the sorts of questions, so we can really dig into there's with these sort of funding rounds, there are always lots of grey areas around how things are defined, etc. So it's really good to tease it all out. But look, I'll hand over to Jessie to just do this first bit of the summary of the funding round.
Thanks, David. Alrighty, so Creative Steps New Work is a project funding round for individuals and groups, and this one is really focused on enabling the creation and presentation of basically new work for artists to facilitate engagement, access to new work to New South Wales audiences. It's also about strengthening the creative ecosystem through collaborations and partnerships. That's something that we like to see a lot of focus on, and also to amplify the diverse voices and increase equitable opportunity for New South Wales artists. One of the other sort of core tenets of this funding round is to contribute to personal and community wellbeing and economic development. Thanks, David.
And next slide, Ian. And might hand over to Nick Santoro to just go through this one.
All right, so some of the key points for the Creative Steps New Work grant round we can see on the screen here. So who can apply? This is for individuals. Applicants have to be 18 years or above and currently living in New South Wales for minimum 12-month period before submitting that application. Creative Steps New Works also open to groups as well, and those same criteria apply to groups as they do for individual. This grant amount that you can apply for in Creative Steps New Work, it ranges from $10,000 up to $100,000, and you do have to contribute at least 5% from other cash or in-kind support towards your projects. So that independent financial contribution there is what that's talking about, 5%. Small projects, they range from 10,000 up to 40,000 in this grant, and then for large projects, that's $40,001 up to $100,000. And on the screen as well, we have the funding range for the activities applying in this this grant round. So your project's got to start after the 1st of September in 2025 and be completed by 31st of December in 2026. And we've got some examples on the screen here as well of costs that you can apply for to have this grant potentially support and help out with making sure that your project is successful. So if you need funds to rent or hire a space for workshops, rehearsals, shows, exhibitions or presentations, Creative Steps New Work can help with that. It can help with fees for development opportunities, mentorships, workshops and courses, costs to support First Nations protocols, travel and accommodation costs that relate to professional development activity as well, and marketing, promotion expenses, materials to create that new work, costs to support accessibility, and of course paying artist fees based on the appropriate industry award rates.
Thanks, Nick. And are other people, slides okay for other people? Looks like Gabrielle's had an issue with it, but thumbs up if other people can see the slides. Yeah, so it looks like, yeah, might just be a problem with Gabrielle. So, all right. So the assessment criteria and maybe Nick, just the highlights of the criteria, because people can read them in more detail later, and then we'll get on to the questions.
Yeah, thanks, David. Yeah, so for Creative Steps new work, there's 5 criteria points. So, and each has separate weighting, so I'll touch on that. So the first criteria is idea, and it's weighted at 30%. And in this section, you'll provide a vision for your project that clearly summarizes the ideas, its aims and purpose. The question you'll answer is, what do you want to do? And there are additional points to consider, which can be seen in the slides, but you can also find these points within the guidelines and also within the assessment form itself. The second section is diversity and participation. It's weighted at 20%. In this section, you'll demonstrate how your project is relevant to or will benefit New South Wales artists, arts and culture workers or communities. The question you'll be responding to is, why do you want to do it? And again, there's additional points to consider, and you'll also get an opportunity to address the strategic priority areas. And the details of the strategic priority areas can be found in the glossary, and we will put a link to that in the chat shortly. So the third assessment criteria is experience, and it's weighted at 20%. And in this section, you'll list the artistic experience of those involved in the project. The question you'll answer is, who is involved and why are they the right people for this activity? Section 4 is planning, and that's weighted at 10%. In this section, you'll provide details of the activities, dates and locations for the proposed project. And the question you'll answer is, how will the activities and where they take place ensure the project achieves its outcomes? And the 5th criteria point is the sustainability section, which is weighted at 20%. You'll provide a budget to support your project here. And the question you're answering is, how will the funding be spent? In this section is where you'll also be selecting if you're applying for a small or large project, and those 2 categories are assessed separately to ensure equity and fairness. And you'll also, within the sustainability section, provide your full budget so that you'll be able to show your contribution of at least 5% of other cash or in-kind support towards your project. Back to you, David.
Right, thanks everyone. So yeah, the applications, as you probably now all know, they're open, and they're open until the 30th of April at 5 p.m. So sometimes some funding rounds close at midnight, but this one closes at 5 p.m. so we can be around the office for those last minute panics. Also, yeah, please read the guidelines, and hopefully that answers a lot of your questions, but also there are some useful resources, including the glossary, which helps in the definition of some of the terms. Then you have to complete the application form via Smarty Grants, which is a online portal for funding. And again, if you have any issues with the Smarty Grants form, it's not the most accessible form. We do have some options to help make the form more accessible. And you can, to do that, you can make a booking with the arts funding team. We've got a Microsoft booking system where you can book a time, and one of our team will then call you at a specific time, and you have 20 minutes to really answer all your questions and deal with all the issues that come up in those things. But yeah, we're really happy to take those bookings and chat about things, and anything that we don't kind of answer today, obviously please go ahead and make a booking as well. So there's a few links have just gone in the chat there for the glossary, for the program itself. Yeah, have a look at those. But having done all that, let's open the floor for questions. So very happy for you to use the chat, or we've got Diane who's put her hand up. So, has put their hand up. So happy to answer your question, Diane.
Hi, everyone. You can hear me, yeah?
Yeah.
Thanks for this webinar today. I really appreciate all of you answering our queries. I've got a couple of questions. Can bear with me. The first one here is in regards to the cultural access priority area project funding versus the new work funding opportunity, because they seem to both have an emphasis on community and cultural projects. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Because I feel like I can kind of like, my project fits in both categories. So I'm just curious, how do we approach that? Sorry.
Well, let me answer that one first, because it's a really good question and it comes up a lot. So it's really good that you've asked it. So there are a couple of differences. Firstly, cultural access is also open to organisations. So organisations can apply for cultural access, whereas Creative Steps is really only for individuals and groups. So that's a key difference. But also with cultural access, the focus really is on the projects that are led by or significantly support a priority area. So it's a real focus on the leadership and the real focus of cultural access is on those priority areas. With Creative Steps, it's part of the criteria, but it's not the key focus. The key focus is on the individual and the group developing a project. And that obviously can involve the priority area groups, but it's not, a key part of the focus. Does that answer it? Diane, you got your mic on mute.
Oh, sorry. Would we be considered for both if we're more suited for the other category, or can we just apply for one?
You can only apply for one. So you do have to make the decision for which one you feel you most align with. And yeah, look, the key thing in that is whether your project is really being led by artists from those key priority area communities or groups.
Okay. Two quick ones. Sorry to take up so much time. Just got a question here in regards to auspice. Do we need an auspice for this application? And then another quick question is, I'm currently completing a project that's funded by Sound New South Wales. Can I still apply for Create New South Wales for this round? Thank you.
Cool. No, all really useful questions. You can be auspiced. It's up to you. You can, for Creative Steps, you can use an ABN, your own ABN, and apply as an individual or a sole trader. Also, as a group, you have to apply as an individual or a sole trader. Or you can be auspiced, and it's really up to you to decide, but it's sort of worth looking into it. And auspicing can be very useful for an individual, because that way you don't actually have to have the money going through your bank account. Yeah, it's always good to kind of get financial advice on those sorts of things. And I'll just answer the other one. You can have applied to Sound New South Wales, but it has to be for a different project. So it can't be for the same project. And at Create New South Wales, we obviously now don't fund contemporary music as it's defined by Sound New South Wales. So there's a kind of a separation there in terms of what we fund and what Sound New South Wales funds. And I suggest you look at the glossary definitions of that because it's a little bit complicated, or chat to us later about it. Jesse, you've got your hand up. So
I've got my hand up. David, I just have some great questions in the chat here. The first is someone is asking if an individual artist can apply on behalf of a group that they're also part of.
Yeah. So yeah, an individual actually has to apply on behalf of the group because the group is not, unless the group is a legal entity, in which case it's an organisation.
Sorry, could I just jump in? That was my question. The question was actually, I'm a solo independent artist, but I also run a group. What I was asking is, could I, for this round, put an application through as an like for my own work as an individual artist, as well as a separate idea from my group, and as well, off what Dian was asking, do I have to choose between creative steps and cultural access? And yeah, where are the lines with that? Because I want to submit for my own practice as well as on behalf of the collective that I'm running.
You as an individual can only apply once, and a group can only apply once. And so if the group wants to apply for a project, they would have to apply via somebody else, because as an applicant, you can only apply once, if that makes sense. And a group has to be essentially an individual applicant has to apply on behalf of a group. So you can't apply twice as an applicant. No, it's a little bit confusing, but
I see.
Yeah.
And that, when you say that, that's relating to both creative steps and cultural access.
Yes.
Okay, so I essentially need to decide whether I want to apply as me as an individual, or for my collective, it's one or the other for this round, for across these two grants.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so it's, that counts for all the project funding, even next steps. You can only apply once in this whole project round and Creative Nations. Yeah.
And David, we've got a sort of follow-up for that question, which is that if a group applies, is it submitted under the president's name, or can it be anyone from that group? Does it have to be someone on the committee in the group, I suppose?
It can be anyone in that group, as long as they are representing that group, and obviously the group gives them the permission to apply on behalf of them. So but yeah, it doesn't need to be the president as such. Just can be an individual on behalf of that group.
David, we've also got another question. Can you apply for this round even though you were unsuccessful in the last round, if your project dates are still relevant? Yeah,
certainly. Yeah, if you're unsuccessful, it's fine to apply again. Bear in mind that the board who assesses all the applications will have quite possibly seen your application. So, you would want to try and be clear that it's a new project, and you'd probably want to maybe look at how you've explained it and your answers to the questions to try and zhuzh it up a bit.
David, we've also got another question. Someone's asking if they're collaborating with artists in another state, how would a project that involves specialist input from interstate be viewed from the assessors?
Look, great question. It's obviously this is Create New South Wales, so the focus is on New South Wales artists and audiences. So you'd really want to make sure that that is the key focus of the program. But you know, obviously we can't be completely data-centric, whatever the word is. So yeah, if there is specialist input from interstate artists, that's obviously, you know, fine. You would just have to, yeah, be clear to make that argument strongly that why, you know, there's no one in New South Wales that couldn't do a similar thing. Excellent. Anyone else with any questions? Can put your hand up or just in the chat. So just going back to that one. Oh, here we go, Astrid.
Yeah, sorry I don't have my video on. I can't get it to work today, so it's just my voice.
No worries.
So I'm shortlisted for a grant, and I'm waiting to hear back from it. I'm supposed to hear back by the end of April. So it's for a new work starting, or part of the project starts in April, where I'm teaching workshops as part of the project, because the part of the project was about community and how we serve the community as well as the artwork. And so this grant is for 40,000, and my budget is for another 30,000 because it's mostly paying artists. I'm writing a musical, so I just need to know, am I eligible to apply if it's for something is it just completely for a new work that hasn't started at all? So it would go towards like performance, paying for the venue and performance fees and stuff like that. Is that eligible or not really?
I think so. If it's a new work, and is new work that hasn't been previously done,
yeah,
I think that's fine. Yeah,
okay.
That shouldn't be an issue. Yeah.
Yeah, it hasn't been performed before. Of course, I haven't written it yet. So it's very new, and it won't be performed until next year anyway. So
yeah.
Okay.
Yep. No, that sounds fine. Great. And you know, we say new work, but that also includes the development of new work and doesn't need to have a performance outcome or an exhibition outcome. But yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I might just add on there though, Astrid, that the project dates for this current round are from after September this year. So you'll obviously just need to make sure that that stage of the work or development that you're applying for sort of fits within the eligible date range.
Right, yes. Do you mean if I'm pitching for the funds to cover a particular part? Is that what you mean?
Exactly. I think I heard you maybe say that it's partly in development already. So just to be sort of clear that, you know, you're applying for this component of the project that's taking place, you know, in the eligible date range.
Yeah, so the plan is to write it between now and like September, October, and then it will be rehearsing and performing the following year. So it would be paying for that aspect of it.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay,
so yeah, the project can't start before it's the 1st September, isn't it? Yeah. So we obviously don't pay for things retrospectively. It has to be.
Yes. All good.
Cool.
All right. Thank you. Oh, actually, can I have another question? One more question?
Oh, quickly.
Or is there someone waiting? Oh, it's all right. I'll write it.
I can see Tara.
That's all right. I'll write it in the chat.
All right. Tara Lee.
Hi, good afternoon. My question was actually a follow-up on what Astrid had mentioned there about the timeline of when the work starts, because I had just actually also read that it was the 1st of September. So I believe you've kind of pretty much already clarified that nothing can be paid for retrospectively, but I could still start working on the actual presentation or the project itself, but just maybe not be paying for anything before the 1st of September. Is that correct?
Yeah, look, that's a little bit tricky because obviously we don't you know, we like artists to be paid for whatever they do, and recognizing that that's, you know, can't be a reality in the real world. But yeah, it's if you're applying for a project, you know, the boards would love to see the whole project funded properly if possible, and that artists are paid, you know, properly for a whole project if possible. Look, having said that, you know, we know the reality of the world is that that doesn't always happen. But I think certainly in your application, it would be good to kind of focus on the work that happens after the 1st of September rather than the work that may have happened before, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, it's actually a solo project, so I'm the only artist essentially that
Okay.
is involved. So yeah, we always get paid last anyway, so it's fine.
Yes.
Thanks very much. Thanks for answering that question. I appreciate it.
Cool. Irma.
Sorry, thank you. Thank you for that. My question is regarding about new works. I'm a classical pianist, so if my new work involves contemporary music, apparently I have to apply to the Arts and Cultural Funding Program. What's the difference? Because they are in the same umbrella of New South Wales Creative.
For classical composition, yeah, you would apply to the Classical and Opera Music Board, because they don't fall within, classical music doesn't fall within the definition of Sound New South Wales. So, but it fits very clearly in the definition of the Create New South Wales Classical Music Board. Does that answer your question?
Yes. Do you have a specific link that I can have a look? Because when I click on the website, appears under the big umbrella, but it's not an exclusive window or panel to actually redirect me to that one.
Okay. Yeah, we can put that. Probably the link to, can maybe one of you find the link to the art form boards that's got the. So there are 10 art form boards now that Create New South Wales have to assess all our applications. And yeah, so the one that I think would be most useful for you is the if you follow that link, and then it's got what are the 10 different art form boards. And there's the classical music, opera, choral and ensemble, and that has the definition for the sort of music that covers at the moment. So I think that should cover it. But if you have further questions, yeah, maybe get back to us.
Thank you so much.
Michelle.
Yeah, look, my name is Michelle. This is my first time applying for any type of funding. Mine is a really grassroots project, and I just wanted to check in with you to see if it was applicable or it would be considered. So mine's really a community-based project, engaging children to connect with Indigenous stories, and then using craft and art to develop, and then at the end of that would be a collective artwork. So I'm an artist in different ways, from photography to sewing to I've just finished my arts and cultural administration, so I'm more looking at, you know, creating events and things around that. Is that something that would be considered through this? I was looking at that creative steps and obviously applying as an individual. Is that something that is this something that I could apply for in that concept?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, look, and we now have one of the boards that assesses is the Community Arts and Cultural Development Board, which is, you know, very much about working with community to empower that community, and that obviously includes young people. So yeah, I think that sounds possible. Obviously it's very competitive, our programs. A lot of people apply, and it's a very competitive process. And to be really honest, it's hard when it's the first time that you're applying, because it's how you kind of describe the project and how you talk about it is quite it's a nuanced thing that you get better at the more you do it. We have tried to simplify the application process so that it is, the questions are a lot more straightforward, as in, why do you want to do it and what do you want to do? But there's still a lot of, to make the idea really clear and to really stand out to the board. So the boards that assess it are made up of practicing artists and arts administrators. They're not bureaucrats. We pay them to do the assessment, but you still have to really make sure your project kind of jumps out to them as being really interesting and valuable and engaging with, people and communities in a strong way, and that the art is going to be really interesting and and strong. So yeah. But certainly that sort of project is certainly eligible.
Thank you. Hopefully I'm an event producer of 25 years so hopefully I should be able to kind of gather that together and present something worth considering. Thank you.
Right.
David, we've got another good question that can follow that one, I think, which is in terms of support material, is it work that's done in the last 5 years, or what's the expectation from the assessors, do you think? Yeah, look, support material is really important because obviously it can demonstrate visually the strength of your application. So it's really important to think about the support material that you provide, and I guess the most important thing about support material is that it's relevant and it speaks to the project that you're applying for. So ideally that is within a fairly close time period, because we kind of want to know what you've been doing and how that relates to the work that you're hoping to get support for. But there's no hard and fast rule around that, because maybe you've had you've done different things in your career, and something that you did a few years ago applies more relevant to the project that you want to do. But do think about the support material and consider it, but also know that the assessors are assessing a lot of applications and they don't have a huge amount of time to trawl through support material. So, sort of say as a rule of thumb, they will only have 5 minutes to look at support material. So don't have lots of complicated links that are slow to load up and all that sort of thing. It's much better to have, images or things in PDFs. And, if you are doing video, that then they're very short and to the point and relevant to the project that you're hoping to get support for. Thanks, David. Another question here. Would you consider extending the deadline due to the public holidays?
Look, unfortunately, no, we can't. The whole process is quite complicated, the whole assessment process, because once the application's closed, we have to check for eligibility, and then they have to go out to the assessment boards to read them, and we need to give them quite a lot of time to read them because there's a lot of applications, and they're doing this, as usually as part of their other jobs. So, yeah, unfortunately, those timelines are very stuck.
We've got another question here, just regards to that previous question about interstate collaborators. Christina's got a musical project in regional New South Wales and wants to know, will artist fees and their airfares be eligible if they're interstate artist fees?
For interstate artists to come to New South Wales, look, we don't have a hard and fast rule on that, but I imagine the art form boards would begin to be a little bit worried about that, just because, you know, our focus is obviously on supporting New South Wales artists, communities and audiences. If you can make a very strong argument for how, you know, paying for those interstate artists to come in is going to do that, is going to support New South Wales artists and New South Wales audiences, then that I guess it's not an eligibility question so much as a competitive question in terms of, you know, the budget and how much the budget is actually supporting the objectives of the funding round, which is to support New South Wales artists and New South Wales audiences.
Thanks, David. This is a great general question here. Any tips and hints for getting a successful application?
Oh, well, look, I might shoot over to some of the team for their hints and tips, but essentially there's no secret, you know, remedy to it. But my hint is that you always get someone who doesn't know the project very well to read your application, because I think it's really useful for an outside eye to read your application, because that's kind of what the boards who are assessing them will be. They probably don't know you, they probably don't know the project. So when you're in the project yourself, it's very easy to assume that people kind of understand it in the way that you do. But it's really good to get someone who's outside the project to read your application to not assume those things. Nick Santoro, do you have any hints, quick hints?
Yeah, I think a sort of a general one for me for strengthening an application would be to be conscious of like the objectives of the funding round that you're applying for. So there's the work that you're doing and the people that you're working with, and all of these aspects of the project that make it an amazing thing. But then it's sort of going into this system where there's the criteria and their weightings and an assessment panel that's looking at that, that is marking against that criteria. So yeah, I suppose when you're writing your application and putting this project and this work that you've been thinking about into this format to go for funding, yeah, be conscious of that assessment side of things when you're writing it, and who the audience is when you're writing your application.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. Yeah, I think that's really true. You really have to be aware of that this is being assessed by a panel of people. So some other questions there. How many grants are awarded? So I can see that one. Have I missed other ones, Jesse?
No, I think we're up to date. Yeah.
Cool. We actually don't know how many grants will be awarded at this stage. It really depends on the budget of each program round. The last round that has just finished is still under embargo, so we can't actually tell you the number of grants that were awarded in the first round, but that should be public in the next couple of weeks, so that will give you an indication. But really, it depends, and it varies obviously the number of applications and the budget available at the time. Cool.
Another question here, David. Do we need to have the exact dollar amount on the budget or around it?
Yeah, look, we obviously need it rounded to dollars. We don't need cents. But yeah, look, budgets are obviously, you know, you are to a degree approximate. When you're planning a project, you can't know exactly what all the costs are going to be and so forth. So it does involve a lot of kind of estimates and so forth. But a good point to remember here is that with the budgets, we have simplified the budget process so that in the Smarty Grants form now you just have a number of budget lines that you need to fill in. You don't have to provide a spreadsheet or an Excel spreadsheet budget template or anything like that. So hopefully it is a lot more simplified, but at the same time it's very valuable for some of the calculations that you've made to add notes in the budget. You can add some notes, and particularly for big items or items like, for example, if you've calculated the box office from an audience, or it's good to just show the estimated workings of how you've come to that figure. And it's also, important to show the rates that you're going to be paying artists, if there are a number of artists involved in the project, how you're going to be paying the artists, and being clear that you're paying them at the industry rates. Yeah, so it's even though we simplified the budget in terms of the kind of Excel spreadsheet start of it, it's still really important to have some good details around the main kind of expenses. Excellent. Any other hints and tips from the team? Nick Pont, do you have a...
Yeah, my hint would be to make a pre-application booking to discuss with a staff member, and I'll put the link to that in the chat. Along with what Nick Santoro mentioned, agree with all of that, and also looking at those the hint things to consider within the criteria questions. They'll all sort of provide further context of things you might want to include in your responses.
Excellent. Jesse, any hints from you?
Yeah, look, I always tell people just keep it simple. Use plain English. It's it sounds like a no-brainer, but you'd be surprised at how wafty people can get, myself included, in previous applications in my former career. But yeah, I think just keep it really simple, get straight to the point, and yeah, just try and really handhold the assessors through the application by being descriptive about what the activities are and what the benefits and the aims of it are, and then yeah, I think you'll be on the right track.
Yeah, very good advice. Thanks, Jesse. See, there's a question there when the next round will open. We don't have the exact dates yet. We're just finalising them at the moment, but it will be later in the year, probably towards the end of August, that the next round will open. Yeah, and that will be for projects really probably for 2026, just because of how long the time it takes for it to be open and then have them assessed. But yeah, keep a lookout on our website for that. And Ian, have you got a hint or tip?
Oh, thanks, David. Other good ones that have been talked about, maybe budget. budget, probably a very common one that you can try align the budget with your responses. What I mean by that is having a without even reading the application and your responses, being able to know what your project is just by looking at the budget, then you're probably on the right track there. Because if you've got a budget that reads more toward presentation, marketing, things like that, and your response is more about creating the work, then there's maybe like a little imbalance there. But if it leans more toward speaking to each other or kind of aligning with each other, so if it's just about presentation, about that kind of promotion, and you've got those expenses that really talk to that, then that's a really great thing too. So you want to try and get that as close as you can, but by doing that, just really try and break down the costs as much as you can, and be really clear where you got those figures from as well, so that the assessors don't get a sense that that amount just came from the air, or just just that kind of thing. So that's probably my tips. Don't have to be an accountant, but yeah, if you can just make it clear of like, okay, just looking at the figures, this is what the project is kind of doing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really really great advice, and the boards obviously do look at the budgets as a real indication of how the project is shaping up in reality, because that's sort of where the kind of rubber hits the road with projects. Should you put a contingency amount in the budget to allow for price increases? Yeah, look, it's okay to do that. Not a requirement, because I guess in terms of when you're estimating your budget, you're already kind of probably putting in a little bit of contingency, but it's not. We don't actually have a contingency line in our budget formats now, do we? No. So yeah, it's probably more. We actually have dedicated lines where you have to put the budget figures in. So we don't have a contingency line. So I guess you have to allow for that within the other figures. But if there is a particularly, risky, you're kind of doing a particularly risky event, maybe an outdoor event that could get rained on, it would definitely be worth putting some notes in the budget around how you would manage such an event like that.
And David, I might also just add that that's kind of works similarly for other types of income that the project might have. So if there's, $5,000 from Creative Australia that you're sort of waiting for the outcome for, then you can also indicate that that's not confirmed, but there's a contingency plan in place if that doesn't happen.
Yeah, very, very useful to do that, actually, because that does happen quite a lot. So that's really great. Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody. Great questions. Hopefully that's been useful, and hopefully you kind of get more of a sense of how it all works. But as we said, very happy for you to book an appointment using our Microsoft Bookings service, and one of the team can talk to you in more detail about your project. We obviously can't give you exact advice, and we don't pre-read applications or anything like that to give it advice, but we can certainly answer any questions that you have and anything that you're not sure about. We're very happy to follow up and help you with that. So